Count. As the mayor of the town of Clayton, I'd like to call this regular town council meeting to order. I ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Most gracious and heavenly Father, we pause to give you thanks for the many blessings of this day. And we ask, Lord, now that you be with us as we proceed with the business for the town of Clayton. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
No, sir.
All right. Up next is your consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next under administrative items is the Library Advisory Board appointment.
Mr. Mayor, in your packet this evening is an application and a recommendation for appointment of Ms. Victoria Privet. This position has been vacant for some time. And we feel fortunate that we've had a citizen to apply.
All right. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the recommendation. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, up next, under introductions and special presentations, we're going to begin with World Autism Month proclamation. And I'd have a proclamation that I'd like to read and present. 2022 World Autism Awareness Day and World Autism Month proclamation. Whereas autism spectrum disorder affects an estimated 1 in 44 United States children and 1 in 45 United States adults, and is a complex condition that affects each person differently, results in unique strengths and challenges. And whereas autism can cause challenges with verbal and nonverbal communication, social interaction, and repetitive behaviors, and can affect anyone regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic background, and whereas autism is often accompanied by medical conditions that impact quality of life, and whereas a comprehensive collaborative approach will help to advance research, providing a better understanding of the many forms of autism, strengthen advocacy efforts, and ensure access to services and resources throughout the lifespan and across the spectrum. And whereas early diagnosis and intervention tailored to individual needs can have lifelong benefits, easing the transition to adulthood and fostering greater independence. And whereas each person and family affected by autism should have access to reliable information and support, whereas autistic people should have opportunities to reach their full potential, and the whole of society stands to benefit from this. And whereas the town of Clayton is honored to take part in the annual observance of World Autism Month and World Autism Awareness Day to address the diverse needs of individuals with autism and their families, and whereas the Triangle Area Networking Group, TANG, along with the Clayton Fire Department, invite the Clayton Town Council to the event Autism Awareness Month, Accept, Understand, Love, which will be held on April 23rd, 2022. And now, therefore, we, the Clayton Town Council, hereby proclaim April 2022 as World Autism Month and April 2nd, 2022 as World Autism Awareness Day in the town of Clayton, and the citizens are encouraged to create a kinder, more inclusive world for people with autism spectrum disorder. Duly proclaimed by the Honorable Mayor Jody McLeod. And I'd like to present this at this time.
Thank you so much, Town Council and Mayor Jody. My name is Victoria Johnston. I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones and the creator of Triangle Area Networking Group. And it is my pleasure to talk about DJ Svoboda. He is our honorary guest for the event, April 23rd, 10 to 12. And it is a touch-a-truck event at the Fire Department Station 1. And he is going to come up and talk a little more about autism awareness. DJ, will you join me?
Ladies and gentlemen, and awesome mayor of the council, this event, I believe, can definitely serve a great purpose in helping the world to know and to understand that children, teens, and adults with autism of all ages have a great and amazing and awesome place in this world, and it's time for them to definitely know how very important and very special they really are, and it's time for the world to understand that you have to get to know children, teens, and adults with autism of all ages, because they too can do many great things to make this world into an even better and greater place, and they too can fulfill their biggest dreams with great love, support, and great encouragement. For what they want the most is love, acceptance, and want to be friends with others and feel that they are loved and accepted for who and as they are, because autism is to be known and to be understood. And I greatly believe that with great teamwork, autism acceptance and inclusion can be spread, and those with autism can make stronger and better communities for everyone, because big dreams do come true, and the world and life never have the final say, and there is no such thing as impossible or impossibility. And with great teamwork, we can help the world to know even more about autism and disability above and beyond and far and beyond. For big dreams do come true, and all great and amazing and awesome things are pure possible if we combine our gifts and talents together with the amazing good Lord's favor, goodness, blessing, and grace, and we can all build stronger and powerful communities above and beyond.
Well said. Thank you. Up next on the agenda is the recognition of the electric utility for reliable public power providers, RP3.
Apologize, we pulled that, we're waiting to put it on the next calendar.
Okay. So we're going to put that on the, we're going to table that and have it placed on the next town council meeting agenda. Thank you, sir. Up next is the Arbor Day Recognition.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are really excited to be able to recognize our Arbor Day celebration, which has been a part of what we do here in Clayton for quite some time. Recently, the Arbor Day Committee provided 600 tree saplings to all of the elementary schools in the Clayton area schools. And during this time, we were using this as an event to honor the April 29, 2022 National Arbor Day designation. We were very excited during that time to have a committee who worked together from all across the town to go and distribute all of these. I would like to say about the staff that I'd like to recognize, you'll see in the video in just a minute, Amy Sharon, Nader Nathaniel Catt, Susan Locklear, Aaron Pritchard, Bruce Venable, Brandon Carroll, Kyle Brady, Heather Prost, Liz Jernigan, who put together all of these, along with C-Shift at the fire department, who made sure all of these tree saplings were ready to go for the kids. We do have a quick video that Nader has prepared for the visit out to all of our schools, and then we're very excited to have one of our schools, Riverwood Elementary, here for the students to tell you why the day was so important to them. Their principal, Lee White, will be here, and their teacher, Miss Medlin. And we would like to first show you the video, and then the students are going to talk for just a couple of minutes.
In celebration of Arbor Day, the town of Clayton is passing out tree saplings to area third graders. Partnering with the school system gets the kids involved in their own future. Would you believe me if I told you that this was a tree? Yeah, so this is a little baby tree. It's called a seedling. And it has roots on it. Oh, yeah. This is called a dogwood tree. So all the third graders are going to be able to take home a tree seedling. We have 600 of them total. It's been really great to see the kids get excited about trees. We pick dogwood trees because they are our state flower, and having them watch a tree grow from a tiny little seedling into a flowering tree as they grow up is going to be really rewarding.
Think of trees as like sponges, they soak up that water. And the more trees and plants you have, the more it soaks up, and it doesn't, cause erosion, flooding, all kinds of different problems. Yeah, it's super important.
I'm Brandon with the Town Clerk Water Resources Department. We're here today helping out Johnson County Public Schools deliver trees for Arbor Day, and we're also giving out these green and grease topper lids for our can and grease program to prevent grease from getting into our sewer systems. The more grease we can keep out of the sewer system, the better and more green our sewer systems will be.
As you can tell, many of our departments had quite a bit of fun that day, and I think we have some folks that work for the town of Clayton who should have been teachers as their other calling if you watch them. At this time, I'd like to ask Miss Lee White to come up and bring her 3 special guests, and if you will introduce them, and they're going to tell you all about their experiences with Arbor Day.
Thank you, Ms. Gill. Thank you all for having us. My name is Lee White. I have the privilege to serve as the principal at Riverwood Elementary, and the pleasure to be here tonight. We were blessed by the town of Clayton a few weeks ago with these dogwood seedlings, and so we have our team here, Miss Medlin, one of our 3rd grade teachers. We have Lynwood Campbell, Ella Weidenhammer, and Willow Morency. So I'm going to turn it over to Willow at this time.
Dear Town Council members, my name is Willow Morency, and I am a 3rd grader at Riverwood Elementary School. Thank you so much for the dogwood tree saplings. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to put the special bags together. It means a lot to have adults think of us children. I can't wait to watch my dogwood tree grow and bloom over the next couple of years. It was not only a great gift, but it also helps our environment. We can always use more trees because they give us oxygen and help us to breathe. These trees will always be special to us because they remind us of our wonderful 3rd grade year.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lynwood Campbell, and I'm going to tell you the first time when I got the dogwood tree. When I got my dogwood tree, I was excited. I talked about it the entire way home. When I got home, my mom and I put the soil in a pot and watered the tree. I watched it for a while, and then I put it in the kitchen table and watched it some more. Then I put it on my back porch to leave it there. I gave it some water again. My mom and I looked up facts about dogwoods.
Awesome, thank you.
My name is Ella Weidenhammer, and I was so excited to get my dogwood tree. When I came home, I went right outside and planted it in the soil. I can make sure it gets plenty of water every day and sunlight. I was so excited to get my dogwood tree. Thank you so much for it.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Jen Medlin. I'm one of the math and science teachers for 3rd grade at Riverwood, and I just want to thank you guys because your gift of the sapling was not only super generous to all the kids in the Clayton area, but it goes perfectly with our standards for science because These kids are responsible for learning the parts of a plant, the life cycle of a plant, environmental conditions needed to make a plant grow effectively. So through your gift, they'll get a hands-on vantage point of that botany and that plant science. So they were really excited. We heard about it the rest of that day frequently. So I appreciate it, and I speak for my colleagues as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I want to tell you that Mr. Shelton, our communications director, went today and had the picture that you all had taken on the playground equipment and had it turned into a puzzle for you. So you will have that picture forever and get to put the puzzle together of all of you all out there the day we took pictures of you. So thank you so very much for coming to our town council meeting. And I will turn it back over to you, Mayor, if any comments you'd like to make.
Well, I would just like to say thank you so much for coming to our meeting tonight to let us know how much you appreciated the trees. I appreciate your teacher and your principal being here with us too. You know, it just shows how committed they are with this town council to making sure we have a great next generation of leaders and people coming along. And we're so excited to have you here and thank all of you. And thank you for your kind words. You did such a great job addressing the council. I think you're probably 3 of the best we've ever had. So thank you. Good job.
These are 3 brave souls. They were handpicked we team teach in 3rd grade, so each team chose 1 student. So they are model students, but I'm sure Ms. Medlin will find some sort of social studies connection as well, because in 3rd grade, we also study, part of the standards are local government. So Ms. Medlin will take this and run with it as an educational opportunity. Yes, sir. Thank you.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, next on the agenda is the employee introductions.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm Brandon from Water Resources. I'm the Utility Compliance Supervisor, and I'm here to introduce today Kyle Brady. We got Kyle from the private sector. He has a background in telecommunications and some other technology line pulling background. So here's Kyle.
I don't know how I can compete with that.
I don't know, he kind of just threw you under the bus when he goes, well, here's Kyle.
I'm glad to be here. Thank y'all for the opportunity. Enjoying spending a lot of time in Clayton and hope to help keep everything rocking and rolling.
Well, thank you. We're glad you're here, and you got a great team player in Brandon. No doubt.
Yes. Can't beat him.
All right. Welcome.
Evening, Mayor, members of council, Robert McKay, Finance Director. I'm excited tonight to introduce the town's new Assistant Finance Director, Tracy Stubblefield. Tracy come to us from the Johnson County Public School System, where she was internal auditor. She started there, I think, back in November of 2014. And prior to that, she held several gigs at some bookkeeping and office manager type roles, including about a 5.5-year stint with a CPA firm. So Tracy's got a fantastic personality, and she's a very welcome addition to the finance team.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for this opportunity to serve the citizens of Clayton, and Clayton is my town, and I love it, and I just thank you so much for this opportunity.
We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
All right, moving on with our public hearings. The next item is the Ashcroft Development Agreement Amendment.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council, Joshua Baird, Engineering Director. The item before you tonight is related to an amendment to the developers agreement related to the Ashcroft 2.0 project. Some quick background. The town has some existing electrical lines in the vicinity. Coming out of the north substation, we have a bulk feeder that runs across some of the properties that are included in that master plan for Ashcroft 2.0. This is a bulk feeder that supplies the majority of town and carries power from the north substation throughout town of Clayton. The easement and infrastructure was installed back in 2016 when the north substation was constructed. Easements through those properties were obtained for the infrastructure as well as the access and easement rights to those. If you recall, back in March of 2021, Ashcroft 2.0 was approved, the master plan as well as the developers agreement. Developers agreement was geared towards some of the coordination efforts with the adjacent waste reclamation facility that we were building and some other transportation and improvements. The total project was 772 single-family lots. This here is phases 1 through 4 of that project. The existing bulk feeder lines for the electric run through this area here shown as red. So as you can see, there are some conflicts with some of the single-family residential units that are proposed with the project. Dating back to September 2021, we've been working with the developer to come up with a solution, looking at a couple different options on the table. One is there some rework of just the layout of the subdivision such that the easement could remain in place where it's at. In discussions, developers shown interest in moving the electrical lines and relocating. We've worked with the developer to come up with a solution as to where these could be relocated. I've been several months just kind of working through negotiations and what that looked like, discussions around the responsible entity, what it would look like in terms of a relocation, who handles what aspects of it. And through several discussions, the developer had some interest in seeing how the town could help them out in terms of the upfront cost and capital to this. Our consultant team and staff have estimated the total project relocation to be $300,000. That is for materials and labor. That is a large amount of money up front. And so through some negotiations, the town has come to some terms and conditions to which we feel we can work with and coordinate on a relocation project where the town would basically come up with an installment payment plan while the developer is still 100% responsible up to a certain threshold for those relocation costs. To break it down, this is kind of the breakdown of key points from the agreement. The town would pay for the upfront engineering and relocation cost. The town would manage the relocation contracts. The developer would dedicate that new easement area for the installation of the relocated lines. Upon the electrical lines being relocated and getting substantial completion, the town would then abandon the existing easement such that the developer could use that area for the use and how they want to lay out their subdivision. Again, project estimated at $300,000. The developer would reimburse the lesser either of $300,000 or the actual cost. So if the actual cost does come in at less than $300,000, the developer would not be on the hook for paying $300,000. It would be the actual cost of the job and of the project, and we would have all records to be able to keep up with that. As mentioned earlier, the developer had discussions to come up with a reimbursement plan. So basically an installment plan at $500 per lot that would be paid at the time of building permit. And then in the event that the project does not move forward very far, 4 years following substantial completion of the relocation of the lines, the developer would be responsible for paying any balance in full to the town as of December 31st of that year. This contract is out for bid, and so we are moving and being prepared. We have not executed any kind of contract for the relocation, but we are continuing to work down that path, and depending on action tonight, we will be prepared to pursue that relocation if this item moves forward and the relocation moves forward there. So there are 2 exhibits that are associated with the amendment to the developers agreement. They are still under legal review, as well as a couple of other items in the actual amendment. So tonight, the request would be for Town Council to approve the amendment to it following legal review of the documents. So with that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Questions or comments for staff?
Yes, sir. My question is, why are we taking care of the upfront cost? Or, why can't the developer go ahead and make those payments upfront rather than taking payment arrangements and having us fish for the payments later?
That's something, and I believe the developer has a representative here as well. That's certainly something that was discussed. This is something that is in the footprint of the project site. We do have the rights to be there. Developer had some concerns over the upfront cost of just the flat-out ultimate upfront cost of $300,000. But it is a fair question that I don't have an answer for you. But there may be representatives here that can speak to that.
I'll jump in as I worked with the developer to help get to a workable solution here. In general, we do want to be in control of this project. It's a critical piece of infrastructure for the town, so we want to make sure that we can have as much control over the delivery of this project. So that was one of the trade-offs, was for us to take this project on. We did discuss the $500 per lot payment plan to recoup those costs. So our staff's recommendation would be to move forward with this as a mutually beneficial agreement moving forward.
The only thing I would say to that is, any future development, things that come up, we shouldn't have to take care of those upfront costs. If this is something, that the developer wants to build on, they should go ahead and make those payments upfront.
Anyone else? So this has been noted as a public hearing. Anyone wish to speak on this, please step forward and state your name for the clerk.
Good evening. My name is James Todd. I'm here with Smith Anderson on behalf of the developer Ashcroft Partners LLC. I think Mr. Baird did a really nice job of laying it out. So we don't have a presentation per se this evening, but we are here to answer any questions that the council has. I appreciate your consideration and review of this. We look forward to working with the town on this.
Questions or comments? Thanks, sir. Anyone else? All right, no one else wishing to speak. I'll turn it over to council for their deliberation. Yes, I thought I just said I'll close the public hearing. I'm sorry. Yeah, no one else wishing to speak. I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to the council for deliberation.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement with final legal review of the documents.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second for entering into the agreement amendment. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, up next under public hearing is the 2022-09 ANX Ashcroft Section 2 annexation. This too has been noted as a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing and turn it over to staff.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff requested this item be pulled from the agenda.
Indefinitely?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone here to speak on this?
We're requesting that at this time, this petition be pulled, but the applicant can always resubmit at a later date.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So I'll close the public hearing then and just turn it over to council. Do we need to take any action on that or just have it noted for the record? Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Up next on the public hearing is the 2022-16 SUP Cerberus Gaming. And this is a quasi-judicial hearing, and I'll turn it over to staff.
Council, at the request of the applicant, we are also requesting as staff that you open the public hearing for the Cerberus SUP and then continue it to the April 18th Town Council meeting.
All right, so I'll open the public hearing and I'll entertain a motion to continue this to the, what was the date requested again?
It was April 18th.
April 18th meeting. All right, so moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next will be the 2022-30-SUP, the Cardinal Bar. This is a quasi-judicial process and hearing, and I'll turn it over to the attorney for a briefing on the quasi-judicial format.
Thank you, Mayor. This item and the next one as well are evidentiary hearings, as they are now referred to under GS 160D, where council hears the evidence and determines whether the application meets the requirements of the code. Certain due process rights and procedures apply. Witnesses are sworn or affirmed. Essentially, this is a decision-making process where the council hears the evidence and makes a decision based on the evidence presented at this hearing, rather than anything presented outside the hearing, much like a court of law. Certain matters can only be testified to by persons who have expertise in the field, and if the application meets the criteria under the ordinance, then the application shall be approved. It's not a discretionary matter. That's a general summary. If there are any specific questions, I'll be glad to elaborate.
All right. So anyone wishing to speak on this will need to be sworn in by the town clerk. That's fine. Yes, sir, she's coming.
Is anyone here for the applicant?
Yeah, anyone's going to speak on this has to be sworn in. If you're not sworn in, you cannot speak.
Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give is true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
All right, thank you. We'll begin with the staff report.
All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Town Council, members of the public. My name is Aaron Pritchard, Planner 2 with the Town's Planning Department. I'm just going to briefly present on the special use permit request for the Cardinal Bar. The request is to change the land use designation from its current land use of restaurant to cocktail lounge. you can think of cocktail lounge as like sort of a bar, or it's what our code defines as a bar or establishment of that nature. The location is 401 East Main Street. The property is about 3/4 of an acre. As you can see up on the screen, where the blue stars are located are where the public notice signs were placed, one along Lombard and one along East 2nd Street. Sorry, this is actually the site plan for Little Ombre. I did provide one for the Cardinal, but for some reason it didn't save. But so this is just included for informational purposes only. The site plan for the Cardinal was actually approved in January 2021 by town staff. And so tonight, the only item before you is deciding on this special use permit. So typically something like this, because a cocktail lounge is allowed in B1 zoning districts as a special use, the special use permit and the site plan would come in concurrently. However, this was already approved in 2021. Regarding its consistency, our comprehensive plan shows the future land use designation as downtown core. Adjacent properties to it are similar, so downtown core, our plan calls for commercial businesses that are pedestrian friendly, walkable, kind of your standard urban environment where you'd see a restaurant or a bar or personal services, retail, things like that. Regarding the surrounding land uses, much of what surrounds it is zoned B1, and so you'll find retail, personal services, restaurants, other cocktail lounges, and then behind it, 1 or 2 streets off of Main Street, the zoning district is primarily B2, so again, retail, professional services, personal services, things like that. This is just shows the zoning map. As I mentioned, the site is outlined there. It's that square site or rectangle in red. B1 is the zoning district. Around it, just to the south is B2, and to the west is OI. So Mr. Cawley did a great job of briefing you, but I'll just mention again once, just very quickly, you are the final decision maker on special use permits. There are 4 findings of fact to be met. Burden is on the applicant to prove that they meet those findings of fact in order to be approved for the permit. And you have several options. You may approve the SUP with the proposed conditions, and you'll find in your packet the signed conditions by the applicant. You may add or remove conditions with the applicant's agreement, or you may deny the application, or you can send the application back to town staff for additional consideration. Our recommendation, if approved, is with these 2 conditions. Basically that any conditions that were imposed as under the site plan's approval in early 2021 shall remain in effect for this special use permit, as well as that any existing or continuing construction at the site, I believe there's a smoker area that may still be getting worked on, be in substantial conformance with the terms of this permit as well as the approved site plan. So those are the only conditions we recommend. And that's it for me. If you have any questions, happy to answer.
Any questions for staff at this time? All right, thank you, sir. We'll hear from the applicant.
I should mention really quickly, the applicant and the property owner are both here. I believe it's the property owner who will be the one speaking.
Good evening. My name is Hunter Deepus with Atlas Stark. I'm an employee of the building owner, and just wanted to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about the Cardinal Bar, in that it is an existing business, was approved, as Aaron mentioned, back in 2021, has been in operation since September of last year, and this is essentially a technicality coming in conformance with state law on liquor license laws. So food sales versus alcohol sales. It also gives the applicant additional freedom to operate business, but this is in no way intended to be a private cocktail lounge as maybe that some folks might think. This is purely a product of needing to conform with NC state alcohol laws. And so we are just trying to get in conformance with that. The Little Hombre, which will be up next, is a sister business run by the same applicant, will operate in much the same manner, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Questions or comments as it pertains to the Cardinal Bar?
Mayor, if I could, one clarification. How is the proposed use under the permit that's being requested?
I'm sorry, your microphone's not quite.
How is the proposed use under the permit that's being requested different from the actual operations since the site plan was approved?
Right. So it was permitted and is operating as a restaurant currently. And that was through the applicant and the town that determined that it could be opened as a temporary restaurant. And as we have moved forward and they have generated revenue, now we understand that it is going to need to be operated as a cocktail lounge because of the NC state statutes.
That change is needed.
So it changes nothing about the operation. Like, nothing about the business will change. It is simply just a change in designation of land use.
And it's to comply with the state requirements, not the town code.
Correct.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you, sir.
I'm Jason. I'm the owner and the applicant. I just wanted to say that I've never wanted to own a private bar / cocktail lounge, so to speak. But with the ABC laws, you have to serve 30% food to be considered a restaurant. If you're not, you're forced by the North Carolina ABC Commission to be a private bar, which here in Clayton is considered a cocktail lounge. When you sell an item like a hot dog with such a small revenue of $3, it's really hard for you to meet that criteria. So that's really the whole reason why we're here. And the Little Hombre serves tacos, so it's the exact same business model. So, thank you.
He's in opposition, so that's what's next. Yeah. Then we have rebuttal on the other side.
I have three, excuse me. For the record, my name is Alan Tew. I'm a lawyer. My office has been located at its current location for 41 years, diagonally across Lombard and 2nd Street, so I get to see the restaurant and the building every day. and I am intimately familiar with the building, having grown up here all of almost 78 years now. So if someone would assist, I've got 3 copies. And so if you give one to Mr. DeFees, and then you all would share the rest, I'll get started, and we're going to get through early because I don't want to miss the game, and some of you all might not either. I know that Porter won't want to miss it. Now I know one thing. I know that Jason Howard is the owner of the business, and I have a suggestion that would be good. Not all of the things that I received were clear as to indicating who the owner of the property is, and that's critical in the sense that if there is an issue, having to call down here simply includes the town in something that they don't need to be included in. So I listened earnestly and read everything that's been submitted. And there are 2 reasons that are given for the change. The letter from the Cardinal to the landowners dated February 22nd, 2055, advised on the first page that the change the Cardinal Bar designation from restaurant to lounge cocktail due to ABC permit requirements. And the second, it says, due to current NC ABC standards, we do not meet the requirements to be considered a restaurant. Now, when I talked with Mr. Pritchard, he was gracious in returning my call. We had an interesting conversation. And I began with asking him if anybody there, in terms of their analysis and their recommendation, considered the impact of the decision on the neighbors in the form of a liquor license change. I've handed to you, this has been effective September 10 to 2021, and I'm not sure that the applicable parts changed. I think they were probably there before, but if you look at the second page under 15B 1000, beginning at number 6, it defines a restaurant as an establishment substantially engaged in the business of preparing and serving meals. To qualify as a restaurant, an establishment's gross receipts from food and non-alcoholic beverages shall be not less than 30% of the total gross receipts from food, non-alcoholic beverages, and alcoholic beverages sold on the premises for consumption. A restaurant shall also have a kitchen and an inside dining area with seating for at least 36 people. The original SUP, well, the changing of the parking requirements to accommodate this postured there were 3 restaurants, and they went through the restaurant seating process. So we started there. Then the application was for a restaurant. Okay, now, there are 3 types of permits. One is a restaurant, which has to comply with the 30% food ratio to total gross sales. They've been in business since September, and it appears, and the permits are renewed in April. April 30 is a renewal date. Well, it appears that they have not been able to sustain themselves as a restaurant not being able to meet the food and beverage ratios. So then their options are to get a permit as a private bar, and I've given you something there that relates to the requirements for a private bar, and then a private club, which would also have to meet those requirements. However, in addition, a private club has to meet the charitable status, 501c3 corporate status, and be in operation for 12 months to do it. So what their option is now is to operate as a private bar. This means that the impact of this is that there is no food to beverage ratio. And in my opinion, and I like to drink, and I've done my share of it, and I've done some over there when it was the flip side, it dramatically transforms the character of this business, that building, and the neighborhood. And there are other factors that relate to that. And the issue is whether or not it meets all of the criteria. And I contend that it meets none. One of the things, if you'll look at Exhibit 2, is that it has special requirements for private clubs, and it gives all of the things, mandatory requirements under subsection C. You have to collect annual membership fees. You have to keep a written policy on memberships. You have to take applications. You have to keep maintain on the premises a current alphabetical roster of all members and their complete addresses and other things like that. Then, and that's in North Carolina Administrative Code 14B, Section 15B-.0107. The second NCAC Administrative Code provision, 14 NCAC 15B-225, general prohibition with regard to guests, and the employees can't allow people who are not members. The third is 14 NCAC 15B-0513, which requires financial statements, the amounts expended for the purchase of of liquor, the amounts collected from the sale, all these different things, the amounts received of payments to dues. Now, one of the things that to me is essential in the integrity of government is the input, and I hate to use the euphemism transparency, but I will just say honesty and integrity. When that place first opened, I went over there and looked around inside and on the door, and I thought, this can't be, that says this is a private club. Over the doorway, it says private club members only. And then on the right, as you go up the steps on one of the support posts, this is a private club. We reserve the right to serve members or not, something to that effect. I've been there 2 additional times. One, my wife and I and friends, there were a total of 5, went in and ate. Then I went there April 1st, no fooling. And Exhibit 3 is what I bought there. There was no request for a membership. There was nothing except money. So I contend that it does not meet any of the criteria. If this is going to be a bar strip such as you had on Hillsborough Street, I mean, it's for Clayton, 2 in 1, that's pretty condensed in the same building. I don't think it helps, and I certainly don't think it improves the value of property. There are 2 vivid memories in my mind, 3. back when Jody Sager and Cliff Morgan opened the Flip Side, they had a full menu. They had people in the bar, and when I went in there, I saw that this bar was having musicians in there. They had the little stage that's still back in the back there. They have a very limited area there. I didn't count the seats or anything, so I don't know if it has the seats to meet it, but it just does not suit the neighborhood. So then I want to, I heard something about something was submitted as, I think the site plan, the original site plan was submitted as for information only. And so I want to look at the site plan that was attached to what Mr. Pritchard so graciously sent me. You've got a floor plan which is attached to it. I have no idea what that means or what that shows or whether or not it reflects the existence of 36 seats. The second then is a site plan, and it has a sheet that has various things on there, one of which is the cardinal at the top, the other one is the ombre. And if somebody would look at that, and Mr. DeFees or somebody can tell me, in the middle of this, there is a room that is to the left of little ombre and behind the cardinal that shows games. So my question is whether or not there are going to be games in there too, at this or at the Ombre. Another factor, and I thought that there was a public hearing and I rose to speak with regard to a continuation of this matter, a continuation of SUP 16 until April 18, and call your attention to what you're dealing with here and another reason why I do not think it fits and why I believe it substantially alters the character of that building and the neighborhood. Ironically, and I won't attribute anything except the record speaks for itself. Of these three, it's numbered 16. This was filed, the application was filed well before the others, January 31, 2022, and I believe that the others were filed in February 25th or 23rd of 2022. And in this, the explanation of the project is to have an existing office space on the second floor, a place for gaming, Call of Duty, Fortnite, Minecraft, etc. The hours of operation, 7 days a week, 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. It caters to those who are 10 to 18 on the bottom here. And that appears from their application, I can't really tell. There is a footprint for it, but on the map, there is no indication as to where it fits in there. The other thing is this, it says it won't affect parking or anything like that. It's designed for walk-in and pickup. You have two entrances to this building, and I'm not sure which one or both would apply. And again, if you can circulate, that's fine. You can figure some will come up on Main Street, up in the area where Dr. Payne had his office, and then you can come up at the side entrance, which is right there where the Cardinal starts. So you think about having 10 to 18 years old in a place where you're going to have, if you approve this and you approve Little Ombre, you're going to have a significant amount of drinking at certain periods of time, and whether or not that's appropriate, I don't believe that it is, and I think it is, again, a significant conflict with the planning and so forth. The other thing is this, when I talked with Mr. DeFees about, Mr. Pritchard about this, again, I want to emphasize, I was told that it was merely a technical matter. Well, a technical change, I believe, requires an amendment to the town. I was told that the town really doesn't have an appropriate definition for a bar, and so something, I guess, more politically correct in the form of a cocktail lounge is used. And so I question one, and maybe Mr. Cawley can help, whether or not there is sufficient language in the B1 permitted uses that would permit this to go forward as submitted. So I ask you to consider all of these things and consider the fact that you're looking at a dramatic change going from regulation of alcohol sales to unregulated alcohol sales, and I ask you to deny. Thank you.
All right. Do you wish to rebuttal? Do you have any further comments?
Mr. Mayor and Town Council members, unless there are specific questions, I will apologize. I had a little bit of trouble hearing everything that was said by Mr. Tu. I'm happy to respond to any specific questions in response to his comments, but there's no specific rebuttal.
Okay.
Would you respond to the question about the gaming room?
The gaming room? Now, it seemed like Mr. Tu was speaking on two separate accounts. One was the Cerberus gaming, which was continued, and then there was a mention of a game room in the back of the Cardinal. Are you referring to the Cardinal, or?
I don't consider the other application to be relevant to this hearing,
okay.
So I'm talking about the room on the plan that says games.
Sure, yes, I'll let Mr. Howard respond to that.
Yes, there's a game room down the hallway. It's a pool table, 3 pinball machines, and a punching game.
Buck Hunter.
And Big Buck Hunter Pro.
And
arcade games. Arcade games. Yep.
Yes, I'd like for the record to make sure that there are no games of chance or payout games. I'm not sure the specific terminology used for those, but it is just arcade games, pinball machines, pool tables, which would be fairly typical in any kind of cocktail lounge.
It's not an internet casino.
No, sir, not an internet casino.
Understood.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. If there are no further questions and no need for rebuttal, we'll turn it over to council for deliberation.
Mayor, can I make a couple of observations?
Yes, sir.
Before you deliberate? Under some recent case law, there is a distinction in these cases between the burden of proof and the burden of persuasion. The applicant has the duty to come forward with a burden of persuasion, but does not have a burden of proof. Secondly, I would say that the town is not a party to the ABC requirements. So the ABC requirements are one thing, the town code is something entirely separate. And you can be classified as one use under the town code, and whatever you have to be under the ABC laws to qualify for their licenses can be entirely different. You can be called one thing under the town code and be called something else doing the same thing under the ABC requirements. And then finally, I'd say whichever way your decision is going, I would recommend including all of the staff materials as a part of the record.
Ms. Archer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question, Mr. Colley. As a quasi-judicial hearing, just making sure I refresh my memory, we only take testimony from experts, or?
No, it's not only from experts, but certain subject matters require expertise. Now, for example, you typically hear about property valuation being required by appraisal testimony. That can actually come in through a property owner. A property owner has the ability to testify to the value of its property. Traffic, stormwater, engineering matters may require technical expertise, but not all testimony is required by an expert.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll make a comment. I appreciate, Mr. Tu, your comments about the operation, some of your observances. I've been to the Cardinal Bar a couple of times, and when I go, I feel safe. I remember most of the times I go at night, there's somebody at the door that checks me in or is just offering some sort of security. So I have no objection with this request.
Ms. Archer?
Just to further echo, I agree with you, Mr. Casey. And in addition, just for my fellow council members, as I read through the findings of fact, I feel that the applicant meets all 4 of them.
All right. Entertain a motion.
Sure.
I'll make a motion to approve 2022-30-SUP under the 2 conditions mentioned by staff, and then also that all staff materials be part of the record. Is that appropriate?
Yes, sir.
All right, I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the SUP. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next on the public hearing is the 2022-31 SUP Little Ombre. This too is a quasi-judicial hearing. Do we have to do a separate swearing in?
If it's the same witnesses, you can just rule that they are all, or remind them that they are all still under oath, and allow it to go forward. You can also incorporate all of the previous evidentiary hearing into the record for this one, and request that there not be duplication and repetitive. If it's something new, you'd want to hear that.
Okay, that sounds good. So everybody's still under oath. Everything that you've said has been duly noted in the record. If there are additional information during this process, feel free to bring on that new additional information. So with all of that being taken care of, we'll turn it over to staff for staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. This is the special use permit application for Lil Ombre. It is a business which is actually on the same exact parcel of land. The presentation you're about to see is almost identical to the last one. Request is the same, to change the land use designation from restaurant to cocktail lounge. Again, the locations of the public notice signs are where the stars are shown. In terms of the location, the only difference being that Lil Ombre is in Suite 113. Just on that site, the Cardinal, I think, is, if you look at that rectangle there, it's kind of right in the middle of that diamond. And Lil Ombre is along Lombard Street, I believe, or closer to Lombard Street, so, but in the same building. Here's the associated site plan, just for your information only. Same as the Cardinal, it was approved under the exact same minor site plan application in January 2021 by the Technical Review Committee. Council here tonight is deciding on the special use permit. In terms of consistency, same as the Cardinal, it is downtown core, future land use designation. Adjacent properties have a similar land use designation. Around the site, the zoning district is B1 and B2. Retail, personal services, restaurant, cocktail lounge, professional services, those are the sorts of uses that you see around there. As shown there, the site is B1. To the south there is the grocery store and other uses in that strip mall. You also have to the west OI zoning. As I mentioned before, just another quick brief reminder, council has final decision regarding special use permits. I believe, Mr. Cawley, you said that the applicant must, has a, how did you phrase it, burden of persuasion? Persuasion. Yes, okay, burden of persuasion for the 4 findings of fact in order to obtain the permit. And again, your options are that you may approve the SUP with the proposed conditions, add or remove conditions with the agreement of the applicant, deny the application, or remand the application back to town staff for further consideration. And if you choose to approve, staff recommends approving with these 2 conditions. They are identical to the 2 conditions that you approved the previous SUP under, that being that any work at the site be in substantial conformance with this permit as well as the associated site plan, and that any conditions imposed under the site plan shall remain in effect. And with that, I now conclude my presentation.
All right, any questions for staff? All right, if not, any additional information the owner or applicant wish to provide? All right.
We'll allow our previous comments to stand unless there are specific questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tu, any?
Yes, the same. I have no change.
Thank you.
And you don't. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anyone else? Oh, that's everybody was, okay. So now we'll have any questions for staff or applicant? And no questions, I'll turn it over to council for your deliberation. Ms. Arch.
Again, same as last time, I feel that the applicant has met all 4 findings of fact.
I agree. I'll make a motion to approve 2022-31-SUP.
Second it.
With the conditions, I guess.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the 2022-31 SUP. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. And motion carries. All right, up next under old business is the Loop Road Athletic Fields update.
Good evening, Council. Mayor Jonathan Jacobs, Assistant Town Engineer. Tonight, I'm going to give you a brief update on the Loop Road Athletic Project that Council passed a budget amendment for back in November. So as you all know, Town Council approved a budget amendment on November 15th of last year to get some temporary athletic fields at our Loop Road property at the corner of Loop Road and Covered Bridge Road here in Clayton, with a priority to get some playable fields by this summer. So just kind of a brief overview of the Loop Road project. So this property is also known as the DuPont property. It's an NC Brownfield site. which is designated, it's a program designated by the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. And so with that, there are some land use restrictions. So for those of you that may not know, a brownfield site, I'll give you the DEQ definition, as an abandoned, idled, or underused property where the threat of environmental contamination has hindered redevelopment. And the brownfield program aids the redevelopment of these sites using specific requirements. When this property was applied to be a part of the Brownfields program, it had some land use restrictions, which are restricted to recreation, athletic fields, staging area for local fire department, and parking. With that, recreation stands for golf courses, swimming pools, tennis courts, and ball fields or facilities. Athletic fields, meaning indoor and outdoor athletic exercise related or physically focused activities. A staging area for people, vehicles, and or fire equipment. And then parking is the temporary accommodation of vehicles. So I tell you all of that just to kind of give you an overview of why that property is vacant and the steps that we have to take to get any type of development on that property. So very quickly, what we have done so far in this effort is completed handling of the invasive species, also known as kudzu. So as you drive through, and I'll show you some images in a moment, the site was heavily overburdened by the kudzu, which is a very invasive and very difficult to kill weed per se, very, very aggressive. It often grows on the side of highways and you see it. So we have also contracted with a private consultant to perform some environmental services, which included stream and feature delineation. As you all know, there's an existing pond on the property. And then they are also in the process of completing an environmental management plan, which is what is required to be submitted to the state to kind of provide guidance and information regarding what we intend to use or to develop on that property. So additionally, we have completed a complete topographic survey to determine all of the features of the site, which is also determined that there are 2 existing cemeteries that we are delineating as a part of this. And then our property maintenance group has performed some minor grading for the fields to prep for seeding, and temporary ground cover was seeded for last week prior to the rain event. Our current plan is to seed with a temporary ground cover such as rye based on the season to get stabilization out on that disturbed area, and then we will be planting permanent Bermuda grass as the season warms up and it is more accommodating for that growth. And that's expected to be later this spring, early this summer when temperatures rise. All right, so here are some before pictures looking from Covered Bridge Road. The bottom left is kind of towards the intersection of Loop and Covered Bridge. These are pictures from last year showing kind of the dense tree line. You cannot see that there is an existing pond from Covered Bridge or Loop Road, and then the kudzu kind of overtaking an existing power pole. And all of that ground cover there is also kudzu. This is some site looking today, so it is very brown, but it also is still winter, so just keep that in mind. But these are views from the same intersection and same viewpoint, so you can actually see the pond. You can see all of the cleaned landscaping between all of the trees. We have kept all of the existing mature and healthy trees. There was quite a bit of damaged landscaping from beavers and other wildlife in the area, so we have removed all of the damaged and trees that have a potential of falling or dying or decaying to try to improve the appearance of the property. And then here is some drone footage that our communications group captured last week. As you can see, I'll try to use the mouse here. This area over here is where the proposed fields are, the kind of brown area in front of the trees, and then the proposed parking area will be in the area adjacent to Loop Road. And for bearings, you have the river. This is Covered Bridge going left to right at the top of the page, and Loop Road kind of going down to the right, kind of 3 o'clock on that image. Most of the brown area surrounding the square grouping of trees in the center is where our contractor removed a lot of that invasive species and cleaned that area up, and it really looks very nice, and you can see the natural setting more prominently from Covered Bridge Road, and you can take advantage of the view of the pond. And then here's the same drone footage from the other angle with the Riverwood subdivision kind of on the northwest top left corner of that map there, just from a bearing standpoint. So the pictures that I showed you a moment ago are kind of shown here at this intersection right here from a perspective standpoint. So what are we currently working on? Staff is currently working with the consultant to finalize that environmental management plan, which is what EMP stands for, and we will submit that to the state for final approval. Part of that plan will include our final plans for those fields and that temporary parking area that we are proposing along Loop Road. We are in the process of securing quotes for installing perimeter fencing. So we are directly adjacent to the Fear Farm property, and so we want to be good neighbors and respective of their space. And so as we increase the public arriving and visiting this site, we want to make sure that we're being amenable to our neighbors and keeping our folks on our property and away from theirs. And then also installing fencing around those two cemeteries that I mentioned. We are also going to work with the county historic preservation to try to find some history and details and potentially have some signage installed so that we know to try to determine whose families or what families are in those cemeteries. There are 6 existing structures on that property. We are currently working to get quotes to have all of those demoed and removed to try to further clean up that site and then reconstruct the access road to the town of Clayton property. So right now, we kind of share our access with the Fear Farm property. Part of that access is on our property, part of it's on theirs. So defining that and making sure it's all within our property to keep residents and town employees off of the private property. So what needs to be done that we haven't done is to install that permanent seating as I described. The pond has an existing dam. Staff has some concerns with the integrity of that, so we're going to hire a professional to come evaluate that and make any recommendations to us and perform any of that reconstruction as needed. And then we are also working with our environmental consultant to do some sampling in that pond. So as a part of the Brownfields agreement, the pond was notated to have contaminants in it. And so we want to be certain that we do not need to provide additional protection around that facility to keep people away from it. Based on the preliminary findings, we're confident that those values have decreased. The last sampling was done over 10 years ago. So over time, we hope that has gotten better, and there's a potential that the Brownfields agreement could be amended to remove the contamination requirements associated with that pond. So planning for the future, staff will need to perform an overall master plan for the DuPont and the Massey property. For reference, the DuPont property is at the corner of Loop and Covered Bridge Road, with the Massey property being behind that along the river, where the existing trailhead for the Riverwalk of the Noose parking is. We need to perform an interim site plan for the athletic fields and then request Brownfields agreement amendment. So the town currently has immediate needs for emergency services and operations on the north side of the Neuse River. And so we are analyzing if there's opportunities with this property and all town properties for maximizing those uses and ensuring that we're using all of the town-owned facilities to the best that we can. So that's a very quick overview. I'm here if you have any questions.
Questions or comments? Mr. Porter.
I had the opportunity to drive out to that site before all these changes were made, and just going out there and look at it now, it's amazing the changes that have happened. I think the staff has done a phenomenal job. I think the pond is a very valuable, excellent feature to that property. I was happy to see that they saved a pretty large shade tree kind of out in the middle of that field too. I thought that was pretty awesome as well. I'm happy to see that there's going to be a master site plan ultimately, I guess, devised for the whole property in the end. Just want to appreciate what y'all have done for this property. Looks good.
Anyone else? I will just say I have had numerous telephone calls about how well this property now looks and how they always knew the town of Clayton took pride in the property that they owned. However, this one had been neglected for a while. So they were actually calling to say, thank you, it looks great, and we appreciate it.
And I will say, regardless of what ultimately happens with the athletic fields, the current town staff does have intentions of routinely, mowing and keeping tame of the kudzu as it will return. So we've already been having some internal discussions and planning with our property maintenance group on what that looks like.
Awesome. Good job. Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to jump on down to staff reports, beginning with the town manager.
Mr. Mayor, in the interest of time, just want to hit a couple key dates that are upcoming for you all and for staff. One of the primary discussions that have been over the last several years was with regard to the wastewater reclamation facility. We have a very big milestone that we'll be hitting on February 14th, where we shall receive the initial guaranteed maximum price from the design builder for the property. As you're aware, the combating of the pandemic influences, as well as just overall supply chain, now a war in Russia and Ukraine is putting some cost pressures on the overall project. However, this will be our first our big opportunity to go ahead and get that cost locked in, so that we're not subject to any of those future impacts moving down. So probably will not have that prepared for you all to consider on the 18th specifically, looking probably more like the 1st of May once we get through some negotiation, but that is a key milestone for that project that we will be bringing forward here in the coming weeks. In addition to that, we got several items coming up. One big one in the near term, this Thursday is our first Downtown Concert Series concert. Unfortunately, Mother Nature does not appear to be cooperating. The forecast as of today is still calling for some heavy rains for Thursday. I've spoken with Chief Barbie, and between he and the rest of our emergency management staff, we will look to make a go or no go decision on that Thursday so that we can push that out. Fingers crossed the weather is cooperative, but just did want to put that out there that we will make sure that we work with the communication staff one way or another to put that final decision out there.
Is that like by noon, or is there a deadline on when you're going to make that decision?
Yeah, our intent would be to meet first thing that morning to go ahead and see what the latest forecast is looking like and make that call, so that hopefully before lunch we've got that being pushed out to everybody.
Thank you.
Just a couple other items. The 11th is North Carolina Lineman Appreciation Day. We have a great staff that are keeping the lights on throughout town here, so just wanted to give them a shout out. If you see or happen to run into any of those folks, thank them for their service. They do a lot for us here. We also have Reading with the Easter Bunny at Fire Station 1 on the 12th. And as a matter of just public awareness, the town will be closed on the 15th in observance of Good Friday in advance of the Easter holiday. And with that, I think that's my updates for the evening.
All right. Is the Easter Bunny planning on making any additional appearances? You know, we got so many kudos last year from all that. Well, I don't think anybody else up here knows the answer. Okay, let me know their answer. All right, I'm just asking because it was huge, but it was COVID. Mr. Sutphin, can I see you at the podium? We're having a little discussion. We're just going through staff reports. We were at the manager. He made a couple of notations about dates and how the Easter Bunny is going to be available on the 12th. And then the town will be closed on the 15th for Good Friday. So my question was, we had such a tremendous response from the Easter Bunny being out and about last year. Of course, COVID, you know, was different than it is currently this year, thank goodness. So I guess, you know, the question is the Easter Bunny planning on making any additional appearances?
We serve at y'all's and our community's pleasure so we can make it happen.
Okay.
I will work on it and get back with you tomorrow.
Okay. That'd be great.
Yep, no problem.
We just got a lot of great pluses out of that, so no pressure. All right, any other staff? Town clerk? Town attorney? All right. I'll now open the floor for informal discussion and public comment. No one wishing to speak. I'll turn it over to council for comments. All right. Everybody wants to go home and watch the Tar Heels win. All right. So if there's no other business to come before this council, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good night.